Hi, this is Kim from Dorothy's Daughter. Welcome to my channel. If you want to take your sewing to the next level, this is the place to be. This week, I just have to share a couple thoughts. I have part 2 of our Pants That Fit series, but I would be extremely remiss if I didn't mention some of the things that have been going on in our country. I am brokenhearted for my African American friends. I have a friend who has 2 little boys. They're the cutest little things. And I just think about them when they get older and how this is what I don't want. I don't want her to have to worry every time those little boys go out of the house, because maybe the very people that are supposed to be protecting them and helping them, they have to fear. And I don't feel like that's not the way we should be. That's not the way it should be. So it's just not right, and something needs to be done about it. I don't have all the answers, but I do think we need to be aware of the problem, and we need to not shut up until somebody listens. I don't have the right words, but God does. So I'm going to share just a couple verses. If you know me, you know that I'm a Christian. I try not to be, I don't use this channel as a means to proselytize or anything like that. But in this kind of situation, when I don't have the perfect words, and I believe that God does, I'm going to use them. Because a lot of silence from me about it has come from fearing that I'll say the wrong thing. And I don't want to say the wrong thing. Sometimes caring can come across, I just don't want to come across the wrong way. So I'm going to use God's words and know that from the bottom of my heart, I care. I'm just going to say one thing about Black Lives Matter, because they do. And of course, in God's eyes, every life matters, of course. But can I just say that if you have 4 children, let's say, and you're sitting by a pool and one of them jumps into the deep end and they're drowning, okay? You're going to go save the one that's drowning. You're going to go help the one that's hurting. So, and that's what Black Lives Matter means to me. Black Lives Matter. I'm going to not be afraid to use those words because they do. So back to God's word. In Micah, it tells us a little bit about how we should live. Micah 6:8. And he said, "He has told you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To do justice, to love kindness," and some versions say mercy, "and walk humbly with your God." So I want to humble myself enough to listen. And I've learned a lot in this past week. Believe me, I've learned a lot about some of my attitudes, even well-meaning attitudes, just that were wrong. But the main thing I want to do is give you a blessing. And I shared that song on the Facebook group and in the community tab. It's a song by one of my favorite Christian artists, and it's beautiful. And if I could sing that over all of you, that's what I would do. But you're not here for a music channel. So I'm just going to share from God's word a blessing. Numbers 6:24-26 says, "The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift his countenance upon you and give you peace." I wish you peace, my friends. And that's basically going to wrap up what I'm going to say about that. So I do think that it's very therapeutic to be creative, and I think sewing is a good idea. It's positivity. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start into our lesson, okay? as we left off last week, we had done all of our measurements. And there's one thing I neglected to tell you, so I just want to make sure that I get that out there, is that the rise can be measured a bunch of different ways. I showed you the method where you use the band and go from band to band, okay? It's valid. But there's also a couple other methods. One, you can sit on a hard chair and measure from your waist to the chair. That's another way. Or if you have a L-shaped ruler, you just put this between your legs and then measure your rise this way, okay? This is probably the most accurate though, honestly, but any of those ways works, okay? If you want to do it, compare them and do an average of the three. That works too. So the other thing I want to talk about is we're going to then compare our measurements to the pattern that we're going to use. Now, there's a thing called ease, and I know I'm probably telling you something you already know, but just in case, I want to talk about ease. Ease is, well, for example, if you just made a garment that fit your measurements and didn't add anything to it, you would not be able to sit down, you would not be able to move your legs, you would not be able to bend your knee, you would not be able to do any of those things. So because of that, you have to have what's called ease, and that's just a little extra for movement. So in a pant pattern, what's generally recommended is about 1.5 to 2 inches of ease in the hips. Okay, so, and then you want about 1 inch in the crotch length. So keeping that in mind, you'll look at the finished measurements of your pattern and compare them to your measurements, and that's how you'll know whether or not you have enough ease, okay? I'm going to go straight to the other camera angle and walk you through how I made the pattern for my very first muslin. I am actually going back to square one and doing these duets again because it's been a while and I've changed my measurements some. And believe me, I think it's a good idea to just do that every now and then. Just go back and because we learn from wearing the garments that, hey, maybe I should have had a little bit of this or a little bit of that. So it's good to just revisit it every now and then. Okay, so I'm going to begin to show you how I choose my size that I go ahead and print out. And what you can hear, if you can hear in the background, I apologize for the noise, but I'm actually printing the pattern as we speak. I have made these trousers a zillion times, but I decided that I am going to go back and do this whole process again for your benefit, but also for mine, because every time you do this process, you get a little bit better at it. So I just really encourage you and suggest that you just go back to square one every once in a while and check your fit. All right, so what I want to point out is this is the Duet trousers from Love Notions, and of course you can use any pattern you want, but this is meant for either knit or woven. And if you are on the edge and you're using a knit, you should size down. But what they have said as far as ease goes is that we want 1 to 1.5 on your high hip and 2 to 3 inches on your hips. They don't give a waist here because these pants sit on your high hip area. All right, so what we have here, my waist is 39 and my hip is 47. So I'm going to go to my full hip and see that I'm between an 18 and a 20. Okay, so my high hip is 43 inches. So really this 18 is pretty close. So when I look here at what the finished measurements are, 49, and that gives me, the 18 is 49 inches. That gives me almost 2 inches of ease. So I think that I'm going to be okay. Now let's look at the rise. My rise is 8.5 and this is 9.5. So I already know that I'm going to have to adjust the rise on this pattern. So we will do that. That's the front rise, and the back rise is 16.5. So in order to measure the front and the back, that's when you take that curved ruler or something, and remember how I had you put the rubber band there, and so you can measure, you know, from your waist down to the rubber band in the front and from the rubber band to the back, and then you can use these measurements, finished measurements, to adjust. Now you want about an inch total ease in your rise all the way around. So if you take that whole crotch length, you want there to be a good inch of ease for wearing, okay? All right, so I am going to cut the 18, and I will probably grade out to the 20 in some areas. But I want to kind of look at the pattern itself and see what the thigh circumference is and all of that good stuff. All right, I'll be back with the pattern. So here I am with the front piece of the Duet trousers. Now a word about cutting out the pattern pieces. There is a curvier shaped waistband for the Duets. So if you tend to be a pear shaped person, or just have a lot of curves in your hip area, you're going to want to use that one, just to point that out. All right, there is also a tapered leg piece that I'm going to put on here as well. All right, so I'm going to look at the finished measurements and see what I need to change. My hip is 47. That is plenty of ease for my taste. I will see how the muslin is, but 2 inches of ease seems like pretty good to me. Okay, now I'm going to look at the hip to knee. So I'm going to measure from this triangle here down to the knee, and that is about 16 3/8. All right, so my hip to knee is 15 and a half. I need to shorten from here to here, okay? So I'm going to draw a line perpendicular to the grain line. Let's see if I have a colored one that would be better. I use this green so it stands out a little better. And sometimes I find little places that I didn't tape very well, which is just fixable. So between the hip and knee, and I'm going to kind of go in the middle, and I'm going to go perpendicular to the grain line, and I'm just going to draw my own lengthened shortened line there, and we'll come back to that in a moment. Now I want to look at the rise. Okay, so the rise, the finished rise, front rise, is, for size 18, is 9.5. It's sort of close, so I think what I'm going to do is make my muslin, if it's within, you know, a margin, I would make the muslin and then see. So that's what I'm going to choose to do with this front piece here. Okay, now I'm going to go thigh circumference. So I'm going to go like the largest part of my thigh here, and mine was 25. So this is 13 and a half minus the seam allowances, and then I'm going to have to measure the back piece as well. When I'm going front to back, I also want to make that same lengthen shorten line on the back piece. So I'll just kind of line these up to see where that is. I'm going to kind of make a mark here. Then I'm going to make that same line on the back piece, making it perpendicular to the grain line. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'll be shortening that in a moment. All right? The next thing I want to look at is the calf circumference. I want to do the tapered leg, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attach this tapered leg piece to the trousers. And then all you need to do, if you want to go back to making the straight leg, you can just fold that back. So I'm going to go ahead and fold this up and out of the way so that I now have a tapered leg. Okay? All right, so now I'm going to check my knee circumference as well. And the reason I need to do that is because that's a unique challenge for me. I have one knee that's very large. Okay, so I have a knee that's 21.5 inches. All right, these triangles here are the knee. So I'm going to go ahead and measure. Okay. So the circumference of the pattern is 22 inches. And my knee circumference is 21.5. So that is not enough for ease. So I want at least an inch of ease. One leg is much smaller than that, but I definitely want to just go based on my largest leg. So I need to add about another inch of ease to this. So I'm going to be adding 1/4 of an inch to each side of the knee, and I'm going to do the same to the front as to the back. Right at the knee, and 1/4. All right. All right, now we're going to look at the calf. So my calf measurement is 18 inches. Let's see how large the calf is on this. I'm going to say it's right about, the fullest part is just about there. All right, we have 9 3/8 there. And we have, looking apples to apples here. We're going to go down, let's go down maybe 3.5 inches below the knee. All right, and we have, here we have 9 3/8. All right, here we have down 3 inches. Here we have 10 3/4. Okay, so we have 9 3/8 and 10 3/4. We have 17 7/8 altogether of circumference there, and that's not enough. I need to add an inch, and I'm just going to call it. So we've got that extra 1/8 of an inch, but I'm going to go ahead and just add an inch of ease. So that means I need to add a 1/2 an inch on each of the pieces, each side of each piece. You definitely don't want to do this when you're in a hurry because you'll make mistakes. All right, so now I'm going to redraw this line. Now, I didn't measure my ankle, which I probably should. If I want a true taper, I probably should measure that ankle. Let me do that and make sure that I have the right ankle circumference. I measured my ankle circumference and it's 10.5. Okay, so what I'm going to do then with this piece, I'm going to measure what the ankle circumference is. So I've got an inch hip, or it has an inch hem, so I'm going to go up from there about an inch. And I have 8 there. And on the other piece, about 8 1/4. So 16 1/4 there. The total circumference of the finished garment here is about 13 3/4 inches. So that part is okay. All right, so I'm going to redraw these lines. I have a curved design ruler. This is a good time to get one because it's definitely going to help you true up these lines. And sorry, I didn't have enough paper up high enough for the, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my curvy ruler and I'm going to draw new cut lines, okay? So I'll go here, go out to that line, into this one, and then it's kind of a straight taper from there. So I'm going to go at a really gradually down to the bottom. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Now I could never go buy tapered pants and have them fit me correctly, because I would always, that always ends up with me not fitting in the back of me. So this is going to be a wonderful thing for me. Make sure you can see. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw the curve. And this one's kind of more of a straight because it's on the outside. So I'm going to kind of go straight here for a little bit, out to that mark. And keep going. And now I'm going to start tapering. And all the way down. So you get the idea of how we can customize that taper the way that you want it. Okay, now we still have to take out the amount of from hip to knee. All right, now my hip to knee was 15.5, as you recall, and the pattern, it is 16.25. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to line this up until I'm going to pull it apart until I get to my measurement. I don't have to take very much out, but I think it'll make a big difference. All right, there's 15.5. Just make sure that it's all lined up properly. I want to make sure that the grain line still lines up. I'll measure it one more time just because I messed with it. 15.5. Okay. All right, I'm going to tape that down. You can see most of that went to the inner part of your thigh. So I'm going to actually I'm just going to take a small piece of tissue paper so I can true up those lines. When you true something up, check all you're really doing. I used to wonder, oh, I'm going to do that wrong. There's, they don't really give you instructions for how to true something up. But basically, you're going from known point to known point. So you know this is the point here, and you know the knee is here. So I'm just going to make that trued up with my ruler. And I know that it will be good. All right. Now, what I have just done to the front piece, which it looks like quite a bit actually, what I've just done to the front piece, I'm going to also do to the back piece. But I have one more thing to do, and that is the inseam. My inseam is 26.5 thereabouts. I usually shoot for about 27 and then adjust from there. So what we're left with here on the inseam is about 30. So I need to take 3 inches out of the length. So I'm just going to go ahead then and adjust for the length of it. Alright, I need to take 3 inches out of the length. So I'm going to overlap these by 1.5 inches. Just take 1.5 inches out. Keep the center lined up. Alright, that's about right. Gonna tape that in place. Lots of tape for these things. Alright, so now you just true these lines up a little bit. There's not really that much you have to do in that regard, but just a little bit. All right. Now I have my front piece ready to go. So I don't do anything with the pockets at the muslin stage. Whatever adjustments I make to the pants, I will also make to the pockets. So what I'm going to do is cut this out from here, from my muslin. I'm going to make these same exact adjustments as I made to the front, I'm going to make to the back piece. And then we're just going to kind of see how the fit is and go from there. So basically, when I make my muslin, I don't put a zipper in. You can baste a zipper in if that's what you want to do. But what I do is I just take the fabric and fold over the seam allowance and press it really good. And then when I put them on, I just go ahead and I pin right where that seam allowance, right where it's folded, and then I know how it's supposed to fit. I either pin it or I just go ahead and I baste myself into them. And then you can make whatever adjustments you need to make. Alright, so that is the beginning of the pant fitting. So go ahead and make your muslins. I know there's going to be lots of questions. That's one of the reasons I set up the Facebook group. Also though, please do also ask in the comments because those help the channel grow. Alright, I am going to go ahead and leave you at that. Just remember that you made these adjustments to the front, you also need to make them to the back. Alright, as far as adjusting the rise and that sort of thing, unless it's really, really off, I wouldn't do it just yet. I would make the muslin and see how it goes, okay? So that's it for today. It's a lot, I know, but go ahead and mull that over. Go ahead and make your muslin. Take pictures. What I'd like you guys to do after you get your muslin put together, go ahead and upload some pictures either to the Facebook group or email them to me. My address is down below, and we will go from there, and we will help each other read the wrinkles. Okay? I will be back to say a closing note and share some viewer makes in just a moment. I hope you're sufficiently confused now. Not really. I hope that helped you understand the difference between your measurements, the ease, what you need, how you need to go about making that initial muslin. Okay? We didn't do every adjustment yet that we're going to do yet. We just did the ones that we pretty much know we're going to have to do. I don't do too much to the rise unless it's super, super obvious. I would let it go, and then we can adjust that with the muslin, okay? So what I'd like you to do now is to take your pattern and make your adjustments, make your muslin. Again, you don't have to have special fabric for that. Just go ahead and use an old bed sheet. Just make sure if you're planning to use a knit that you use something knit. If you're planning to use a woven that you use something woven, okay? And I use old bed sheets a lot of times. I'm probably going to use some Walmart fabric this time because I have a stretch woven and I have a stretch woven fabric from Walmart. Now that way it'll be really close to what I'm going to be using. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go from there. Now on to some viewer makes. Kathy sent us her Pona jacket. She actually sent us a shorter version of this a couple months ago, and now she has finished her longer version, and it's just, I love that color for spring. Kathy, that is an adorable jacket. I hope you have many years of enjoying that one. And it's so crisp and nice. Linen is just an incredible fabric and so comfortable, and I happen to know that's Kathy's favorite fabric too, because we've actually been able to spend some time together because she happens to be local here. And Nancy sent us a closet case sienna jacket that she made, and I'll tell you what, Nancy, I had overlooked that pattern because I didn't think it was for me, but when I see yours now, I think possibly I should have not overlooked that pattern. So that tells you how much I like that make of yours. It is just beautiful, and you did such a beautiful job. To send your viewer makes, you can send them to the email address down below, or you can join the Facebook group, upload them there, and use the hashtag viewer makes. I'll take that hashtag as permission to share. All right, that's all I have for you today. I hope to see you on Sunday in a live session at 3 p.m. and on Tuesday for part 3 of making pants that fit. Have a fantastic weekend. God bless you and happy sewing.